78. I'm still standing strong. I'm not sick. They were all so sick. And I think I could keep on rising. So I can keep on rising. And tears are great. I don't mind crying.
Have you lately heard the moving tale of Patti LaBelle? Her personal life is far different from the image she presents on stage. Patti LaBelle bravely spoke out in a recent interview about the hardships she has gone through, from early abuse to intricate legal battles to even terrible loss. Patti LaBelle has never shared this before. Thus, this is a rare chance for you to learn about the negative side of her life. Let's start the video. The terrible reality is that Patti LaBelle's childhood was overshadowed by major personal and family difficulties, even if it was marked by relative economic ease. While her mother, Bertha Holt, struggled with many years of abuse that finally resulted in the couple's separation when Patti was just 12 years old, her father, Henry Holt, worked as a railroad worker and was also a nightclub singer. LaBelle stayed close to her father until his death, finding comfort in their relationship even with their separation. A horrific event during LaBelle's early years further tarnished her upbringing. She was assaulted by a family friend at a young age, a profoundly traumatic event she did not talk about for many years. Her emotional well-being suffered permanently from this event, which also shaped her perspective of the world and her own place inside it. LaBelle sought solace in her church despite the trauma. It turned into a haven where she could grow and heal her musical ability. The church gave her a conducive setting where she might direct her suffering into creative expression and development. Early on, LaBelle was said to be quiet and shy, a description that fit her own views of her childhood. LaBelle admitted in a documentary about her life that she had never expected to work in music. She first saw herself as a housewife, and her quiet demeanor meant that the lively personality she would later show was not right away clear. Her introspection and shyness stood quite apart from the strong stage presence she would come to represent. LaBelle started a singing group with 3 friends and her older sister during high school. Though they were enthusiastic and had similar musical tastes, the group's life was brief. Conflicts, especially between LaBelle and her sister, taxed the group's dynamics and resulted in their breakup following only one performance. Though difficult, this early encounter in group dynamics was formative in determining LaBelle's artistic career. LaBelle's love of music never wavered, even with these early disappointments. She kept following her musical interests while part of another group called the Ordettes throughout her time in high school. LaBelle had more chances thanks to this group to develop her skills and experience in the cutthroat music industry. She developed as a performer, greatly influenced by the Ordettes, who also set the foundation for her future success. Choosing to drop out of college, LaBelle decided to concentrate on her developing music career by touring with her group, now under Bernan Montague's management. For the young singer, this action was both audacious and transforming since it signaled the start of a period of great professional development and expansion. LaBelle devoted her next few years to touring and performing, progressively developing a devoted following. Her future success was laid by her recognition and respect in the music business, derived from her skill and will. LaBelle's life unexpectedly changed during this formative period when she developed feelings for a rising musical star. LaBelle crossed paths with Otis Williams, a major Temptations member and one of the most well-known Motown groups of the day, early in the 1960s, as she was developing herself as a major singer in Philadelphia. The background for their meeting was the Temptations' visit to Philadelphia for a performance. LaBelle and Williams' interaction was charged with chemistry, according to HuffPost, and their courtship started soon after the show. Though strong and passionate, their relationship was complicated, and LaBelle later thought of it with mixed feelings. Looking back, LaBelle wondered if her attraction to Williams was motivated by his membership in the Temptations or by real affection for him personally. A fabled group that stood for fame and success. LaBelle's career revolves around the theme of often hazy lines, separating personal emotions from the attraction of celebrities, which this introspective study highlights. Williams suggested marriage to LaBelle as their relationship developed, a show of his great dedication. LaBelle, though, was at a major crossroads at this time. Williams's autobiography claims that her proposal came with the expectation that she would move to California and slow down her musical career to focus on their relationship and future together. For LaBelle, this offered an impossible decision. Her music career was her livelihood and passion. She could not make sense of leaving it for a California domestic life. Turning down Williams's offer was a significant choice made by LaBelle that reflected her commitment to her career and her refusal to compromise her professional goals. LaBelle and Williams kept a close friendship over the years, even as their respective careers kept rising, even as their relationship came apart. Despite their romantic relationship not moving towards marriage, their lifelong friendship epitomized the respect and mutual admiration they held for each other. Few people know a secret negative story about Patti LaBelle and Jackie Wilson. In her book, Don't Block the Blessings, Patti LaBelle describes a disturbing meeting with Wilson that exposes a darker side of his nature. While Wilson was a seasoned performer in the music business, LaBelle was a rising star still developing her presence in the early 1960s. LaBelle was alone and ignorant of the approaching peril during the incident behind a Brooklyn theater. LaBelle's story claims that Wilson approached her from behind and started kissing her neck, an uncomfortable invasion of personal space that rapidly turned into a more dangerous situation. Wilson's breath smelt of alcohol, LaBelle pointed out, suggesting he might have been intoxicated at the time based on her chilling clarity description of the scene. The circumstances worsened when Wilson and an associate allegedly tried to forcefully bring LaBelle into a locked room. LaBelle was quite vulnerable in this act of aggression since she lacked physical strength and any kind of protection. Thus, she was unable to fight against the two men. LaBelle yelled loudly in a last-ditch attempt to flee, enough attention drawn to release her by Wilson and his associate. Her bravery and screaming not only helped her to get away, but also brought attention to the terrifying reality of negotiating such threatening interactions in the music business. This episode was a major and upsetting turning point in LaBelle's early career, quite different from Wilson's glitzy reputation as a celebrated actor. Given Wilson's reputation for a short fuse and a string of extramarital affairs, as Jerry Roos notes, his behavior was not totally shocking. Wilson was married to Frida Hood, his childhood sweetheart, at the time of the incident. Still, his marriage did not stop him from acting in ways that would later damage his legacy and affect the lives of people around him. Gladys Knight, a mutual friend of LaBelle and the late Wilson, has confirmed the narratives of Wilson's behavior. Knight stressed Wilson's positive impact on her own career, even as she recognized LaBelle's experience. Knight's subtle viewpoint captures Wilson's complexity of character. Though his personal misbehavior and actions presented a different picture, he was known for his kindness and support of other musicians. Nobody's path to success is a straight climb. Often it is a meandering road paved with tenacity, skill, and the lucky convergence of opportunity and ability. Patti LaBelle's ascent to popularity was no exception. She personified the hardships that defined many great artists' careers. LaBelle and her group, originally known as the Ordettes, started a demanding trip to the East Coast following the crucial choice to drop out of high school. Relentless performances at several venues defined this era as a monument to their will and dedication to establish themselves in the cutthroat music business. LaBelle and her gifted bandmates Sarah Dash, Nona Hendrix, and Cindy Birdsong faced the typical difficulties of early-stage musicianship, finding the right opportunities, developing their craft, and gathering a following. Daily gigs and many hours spent honing their performances defined their path and set the foundation for what would finally be a major breakthrough. Their major break came in 1962 via a sequence of lucky but complex events centered on a song called I Sold My Heart to a Junkman. John Clemente's book, Girl Groups, Fantastic Females Who Rock the World, describes how the first chance presented itself when Harold B. Robinson, a car dealer hoping to start his own record label, approached the Starlets, another female group, to record the song. Robinson convinced the Starlets to record the song even though it was connected with another label since he promised it wouldn't interfere with their current obligations. But the matter grew complicated when Robinson's Newton Records formally started later that year. Robinson published the song credited to the Bluebells, another name used in this context for the Ordettes. Unaware of the earlier Starlet recording, the Ordettes recorded "I Sold My Heart to a Junk Man" for a Robinson audition. LaBelle and her group would have a possible breakthrough when the song started to pick momentum and climb in popularity. Legal issues, though, dogged the song's growing popularity. Realizing that another group under a different name was promoting the same song, the Starlet manager sued Robinson. Patti LaBelle and the Bluebells were caught in the crossfire between conflicting interests and legal battles. Thus, this legal conflict put them in a challenging situation. Patti LaBelle and her group negotiated a time of both successes and losses following their stormy encounter with the Starlets and Harold Robinson. The group showed promise early in the 1960s when they recorded several top 40 hits. Their path was not without difficulty, notwithstanding these successes. Seeking to leverage their rising profile in 1965, the Bluebells signed with Atlantic Records. However, this action did not produce the expected outcomes. The group's time with Atlantic was challenging as they tried to repeat their past triumphs. The label's attempts to rebrand and advance the group did not go as planned, which caused a period of inertia. The lineup was starting to change by the end of their contract, and Cindy Birdsong left the Bluebells to join the Supremes, substituting for Florence Ballard. For the group, the early 1970s signaled a dramatic change. They started working with British television producer Vicky Wickman in 1970. He was instrumental in redefining their musical approach. Wickman changed the group's name to LaBelle and guided them toward the growing glitter rock scene, which was distinguished by theatrical presentations and extravagant costumes. For LaBelle, this change in approach turned out to be transforming and resulted in unheard-of critical and financial success. LaBelle had a historic career turning point when Lady Marmalade, which topped the Billboard Hot 100 chart, came out under Wickman's direction. With its strong melody and aggressive approach, the song became the group's defining hit and solidified their position in music history. LaBelle became known as a pioneer in the genre after embracing glitter rock and, with their unique approach, received great praise. "Don't Block the Blessings," Patti LaBelle's autobiography, emphasizes the group's innovative successes during this era. LaBelle became the first black pop act to stage at the Metropolitan Opera House, marking a historic turning point in American music. The group also became the first black vocal group to grace the cover of Rolling Stone magazine, confirming their importance in the music business. Internal strife started to affect the group's dynamics even with their critical and financial success. LaBelle had a number of difficulties by the middle of the 1970s, stemming from the different musical tastes among its members. Patti LaBelle said she wanted to go back to soulful ballads, while Nona Hendryx went towards glam rock and Sarah Dash towards disco. Tensions inside the group resulted from these differences in musical approach. The result of these inner conflicts was clear-cut during a December 1976 concert. Nona Hendryx left the stage suddenly and went into a mental collapse as the trio was ready to end their show. Hendryx was later brought to the hospital, and the incident signaled a group sea change. The last members of LaBelle decided to split given continuous arguments and the emotional toll the performance took. Patti LaBelle was expected to be the major star once LaBelle broke up. She had been the main vocalist and the group had been named after her. Thus, it was expected that her solo career would rapidly eclipse the success she had attained with LaBelle. Although Patti LaBelle's first solo efforts showed promise, it would take several years and many albums before she would experience the same degree of success she had with her former group. Released in 1977, Patti LaBelle's first solo album, simply titled Patti LaBelle Critics Praised the Album, which included well-known singles including Joy to Have Your Love, Dance With Me, and You Are My Friend. LaBelle's strong vocals on these songs laid a solid basis for her solo work. The album's commercial success did not translate into ongoing momentum, even with the good reception. Following her debut, LaBelle's albums Tasty, 1978, It's All Right With Me, 1980, and Released, 1981, did not enjoy the same degree of popularity. None of these albums peaked in the charts, and each one battled to have a major influence on LaBelle's past work. LaBelle struggled to find her footing in the very competitive music business. Thus, the early 1980s were trying times for her. Patti LaBelle made a big career change in 1981 when she signed with Philadelphia International Records, a label noted for its rich soul and R&B legacy after leaving Epic Records. In LaBelle's career, this change signaled a fresh chapter. Her growing passion for Broadway also drove her to investigate theater-related prospects. Patti LaBelle never totally turned away from music, despite her travels into theater. LaBelle recorded a fresh rendition of the ballad The Best Is Yet to Come in 1983 while still touring Broadway. Additionally released this year were the album I'm in Love Again and the single If Only God Knew. LaBelle broke her run of less successful albums, marking a turning point in her career. The peak position for In Love Again was number 1, selling over 500,000 copies. 46 on the Billboard 200 earned gold status. The popularity of the album signaled the start of Patti LaBelle's quite remarkable decade. Callie Kane cites Patti LaBelle as perhaps the best gay icon of all time, and a shining example of the intersection of the LGBT community and Black female artists in Live Through This, surviving the intersections of sexuality, God, and race. Despite LaBelle's personal heterosexuality and close ties to the church from her upbringing, this portrayal emphasizes her great influence on the LGBT community. LaBelle's songs and advocacy over the past 5 decades have cemented her standing as a beloved member of the community and advocate of LGBT rights. LaBelle's relationship with the LGBT community has been complex and firmly based on her public campaigning and personal values. She said in an interview with the New York Post that she is committed to advocating against injustice, and that when I observe it, I am quite outspoken about it. I think I speak for some of my children since sometimes gay men and women are reluctant to come out and express what they truly feel. This comment emphasizes LaBelle's function as an ally and advocate who uses her position to elevate the voices of people who might otherwise be excluded. LaBelle's relationship with the late singer Luther Vandross is one moving illustration of her helping nature. LaBelle said on an appearance on Watch What Happens Live that Vandross had told her about his wish to come out publicly. He voiced worries about his mother rejecting him and losing the backing of his female admirers. LaBelle's deep compassion and her function as a confidant for people battling their identities are reflected in her understanding and support during this sensitive period. During the HIV/AIDS epidemic, a crisis that badly affected Black and LGBT populations, LaBelle's advocacy was notably extensive. Understanding the pressing need for awareness and action, LaBelle started speaking for the National Minority AIDS Council in 1987. Leading the Live Long Sugar campaign, she sought to inspire persons of color to get support and treatment. Especially in areas sometimes disregarded, this campaign was vital in addressing the differences in HIV/AIDS education and access to healthcare. Neglected, Patti LaBelle's love story with Armstead Edwards will pique the most interest among her fans. Armstead Edwards managed Patti LaBelle before their marriage, a dynamic that greatly affected their relationship. The Huffington Post claims that Edwards asked LaBelle 3 times before she decided to pop the question herself. 3 times he asked me to marry him, but I said no. LaBelle related when I asked him the 4th time. Their particular courtship revealed a strong and long-lasting bond that would finally result in their 1969 marriage. LaBelle and Edwards grew a family together in the following years. In 1973, they welcomed their son Zuri and assumed care for not only their biological child, but also the 2 children of a neighbor and LaBelle's late sister, Jacqueline. This extended family structure proved their dedication to raising and helping people around them, producing a big and loving home. LaBelle and Edwards' marriage struggled over time, though, despite their close relationship and lack of conflict. Following more than 30 years together, the couple declared their divorce in 2000 and had it completed 3 years later. LaBelle spoke well of their separation, stressing that it was not tainted by resentment, even though their marriage was ending. She told Country Living, "I never hated him. He never made fun of me. We simply could not live together. Thank you, God. We never fought in 32 years. We got along even though we disagreed. LaBelle and Edward's friendly divorce let them keep a close and encouraging relationship long after they separated. They stayed in one another's life as friends and kept looking after their extended family. LaBelle frequently calls Edwards one of her best friends, stressing their mutual ongoing respect and affection. In a 2019 Instagram post where LaBelle celebrated her birthday with Edwards and his family, LaBelle clearly displayed their lifelong friendship. This reunion showed how close their bond stayed, even though they were no longer a couple. They still encouraged and celebrated each other's achievements. When LaBelle thinks back on their relationship, she has always stressed the good times they spent together and the mutual respect that has endured outside of their marriage. Their narrative is evidence of the fact that even as relationships change and grow over time, love and respect can blossom. Although her early years were mostly free from legal conflicts, more recent years have seen a string of lawsuits casting shadows over her otherwise remarkable career. The controversy started with a well-publicized incident in 2008 that led to a lawsuit attracting a lot of media coverage. CNN revealed in 2010 that LaBelle had settled at $100,000 in response to claims made by a mother alleging verbal and physical abuse of her and her 18-month-old child. The complaint claims LaBelle was accused of yelling, screaming obscenities, throwing water and drenches, and trying to strike and injure the woman in a Manhattan hotel lobby. LaBelle and her group refuted these claims, but the settlement marked a significant stain on her record and attracted unwelcome scrutiny of the singer. LaBelle encountered yet another legal challenge the next year. She was sued in 2011 following a fight involving her security staff at a West Point function. The lawsuit said LaBelle's security guards had attacked a West Point cadet who had passed too near their limousine. ABC News reports that the cadet suffered a concussion following the incident. This lawsuit generated more debate and begged questions about LaBelle's policies and behavior regarding security. But in 2014, the Seattle Times revealed that a jury finally decided in favor of LaBelle's security guards, discounting the accusations directed against LaBelle personally. Patti LaBelle not only handled legal matters, but also family tragedies. The family tragedies LaBelle experienced started with the death of her eldest sister, Vivian Hogan Rogers, at just 43 years old from lung cancer. Vivian not only lived with family, but also actively participated in LaBelle's early musical projects. Vivian's death was a major blow and created a somber atmosphere for the next tragedies the LaBelle family would suffer. LaBelle's sister, Barbara Holta Purifoy, too, met a sad end after Vivian passed away. Part of LaBelle's first singing group, the Chordettes, Barbara battled colon cancer and died at 40 years old. LaBelle, who was already coping with the death of her sister, suffered even more emotionally. LaBelle's younger sister, Jacqueline Holta Paget, joined the string of losses. For LaBelle, Jacqueline's death from brain cancer at 43 was especially heartbreaking. Shortly before she died, Jacqueline had asked LaBelle for an egg sandwich. LaBelle promised to satisfy her demand the next day. Sadly, Jacqueline passed away before they could get back together. LaBelle has freely admitted it as a cause of great personal regret. LaBelle opened up about how this unmet demand torments her in an interview on Oprah's Masterclass, highlighting the deep and unresolved grief she bears. The death of LaBelle's parents added to the effect of these losses. Her mother died from diabetes. Her father died from Alzheimer's disease. LaBelle especially felt the loss of her mother since she would subsequently be diagnosed with diabetes. Her loss was further complicated emotionally by this common suffering with her mother. LaBelle passed out on stage during a 1995 concert in New York, so shocking the diagnosis. Her doctor told her she had type 2 diabetes when she came to, which first made her angry and frustrated. Given the difficulties diabetes presents and its personal relevance to her family, this reaction made sense. LaBelle's mother, aunt, and grandmother, among other family members, had already passed away from diabetes. Her diagnosis was inevitably certain given the disease's frequency in her family history, but it also sharpened her will to control it. LaBelle first reacted angrily, but this soon changed to resolve. Knowing the terrible effects of diabetes, which had previously devastated her family members, her mother had had amputations and her aunt had lost her sight, LaBelle discovered the drive she required to take on the illness squarely. Driven not to let diabetes define her life, LaBelle adopted a multifarious strategy for controlling her condition. Working with a personal trainer, she developed a consistent exercise program that fit her hectic schedule. LaBelle's dedication towards a better way of life went beyond the gym. Writing cookbooks emphasizing diabetic-friendly recipes helped her to take charge of her diet and make healthy eating a major part of her life. She also started a line of sauces called Patti's Good Life, which let her honor good eating while still following her love of cooking. Regarding the tragedies Patti LaBelle's life saw, what do you believe? What are your thoughts on this situation? Let us know in the comments section. Please do not forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Before you go, click on the video displayed on your screen.